Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. So here there is this is a text or a script that I have wrote for this video for me to follow. I have actually written this down into with a pen and paper, and I typed it down into the script. So it's a little bit messy, but I'm gonna leave it in the description below if you want to read it. But I'm gonna just read around this, and like I'm just gonna talk about what I have wrote and what it means basically, because some of these things might not be as clear for you. So let me just start off. So first off, this is essentially not our project, and what I mean by this is the whole thing that we are starting with here, the course in general. So the project that I have done and what we are going to use in this course. So it's a client's, okay? But wait, what's the difference? So if we are building our own project, in one hand we could start off, okay, so if we are building our own project, in one hand we could think of two other scenarios here, and those are a beginner who has a big idea and should always start small and build from there. So this is so far so good. So this isn't something that needs clarifying from me. So which basically means you could build the most basic version of your application, and so you can add and build around it from there. And what this means is, for example, imagine yourself as a beginner. Okay, you are a beginner. Okay, so okay, so now you are a beginner. You have this big idea. You should break it down. No, before breaking it down, you can think of the most simple basic idea of your application and do it or write it, build that program and move on from there, even if it's just print hello world. And for example, if you want to write, for example, a greeting program, you can start from a hello world program, for example. You can add a function from there, you can add variables from there if you are gonna need them, so far and so on and so forth. So the second one is this is the second scenario here. Okay, so when you have built and made a couple of projects by now, so far you actually can take the idea of yours and transform it or treat it as a problem. Now this problem might be it always is, so you need to break it down into small manageable sub-problems or subtasks that can be easy handled. So you put in it like that makes it always easy to know what to start with. So what this means, what this paragraph means here, is that if you are not like a complete beginner and you have built a couple of projects or one project, if you have built something before, it could place you of this in this situation where you can actually think about you can think big from the first time. So this is what I'm talking about here. So you can think of your application or your solution that you have as a problem, or your idea as a problem. You treat it that way. You break it down into sub problems, so you have subtasks now, so you actually can determine or choose what you can start from. And so in this situation you could also be the kind of guy who has some ideas about components, functions, or even some libraries that you are gonna need, and you can write those down, like brainstorming, if you like the idea. So like as you move along, you kind of have a non-complete map of where you are, of what are you or what you want to build, and what could simply be a feature like backing up the system's data, or having the application encrypted data, or asking the user for a username and password, those kinds of stuff, etc., etc. And what this whole thing means is that thinking of your application as a big problem and breaking it down. So, and what I mentioned before, that it puts you at this situation where you kind of know something that you are gonna use, some function that you're gonna need, for example, you are sure that you are gonna need it, so you can just write it down or make a script, a standalone script or a module, and save it, for example, a function that you certainly know that you're gonna need, or for example you have this idea about a function that you have used before, and you know how to implement it in this project, or you know that you can implement it, or you know that you can reuse it, you can just write that down, and so when you get there you don't have to think about it that much. So that's how can you reuse code. And all of those features you can simply write scripts down and save them. So yeah, that's it. Let's move on. So for example, and let's just talk about this more. So for example, you backing up the system's data is, for example, a feature that you can have in any application. So you can just write that down in a notes module or something like that as a note. So back up the system's data. So this could be a functionality, a feature, whatever you want to call it. So let's read this paragraph. So philosophically, if you take a step back from both examples, you can actually say or notice that these two may be the same. So I'm talking about the two guys above, so the beginner and the one who actually built a couple of projects so far. So because they both start small, maybe brainstorm about what they are about to build, or simply making a blueprint of their main script or main application. So but you have to realize that the first might actually learn more than the second one, and this is very important for me. I don't know if you care about learning more, but this is why I code, because I'm learning stuff each and every time, and this is essentially why I teach, or why I started teaching. So I'm actually learning as I teach here. Okay, so because it's new for him, so he's learning something new. And also there is the fact that you can choose to be the first one every time, so you can easily do that by picking a new project every time. This way you always make sure to learn something new that makes you a hacker. Okay, so basically what I mean in here is that if you take it from a different perspective, both programmers or both guys actually, or both developers actually kind of have the same approach of the whole project. It's just that the first developer or the first beginner, the one that is a beginner, has much or more confusion about what he's gonna build or he's gonna make more than the second one, and he's maybe not sure that he can build it, because as a beginner, to be frankly with you, you can kind of have doubt that you can actually make something. I don't know if you have that, but yeah, so that makes you a hacker. This mentality of you wanting to learn more and to create more and new stuff and hacking stuff as you go along makes you a hacker. So where am I? Okay, so here. So now let's here's something. We are neither of the above. So we are neither a beginner in this situation, and we aren't building our own project. Like I've said, we are building a client. So because it's not our project, remember, even though we can pick and choose from those projects, like a freelancer as an example. So for example, I give you an example about what I'm talking about here. So for example, think Upwork. Okay, so think Upwork with me here. Upwork gives you this idea of they give people the ability to simply post their job or their job description. They have, for example, a job or project, and they just can put it right there in the world for everyone to see it. And if they are interested, if the developer is interested in that project, he can simply apply to that project. So he can help, or he can be hired or something, whatever you want to call it. I call it helping people. I don't like the idea of being hired. I don't know why, but I just think that way. So here is the idea. Here, as a freelancer, you kind of can choose projects because you have many options, so you can choose. Definitely you can choose. So you are actually mostly using what we are actually mostly using what we already know, so to make money. by helping someone with their own project, or by making it from scratch. Again, whatever suits you, and you can learn something or two here as well. So philosophically, it might put you in the spot between the two people we mentioned earlier, so the beginner and the other guy who has a couple of projects in his career, or whatever you call it. I don't call it a career, just coding. So anyway, think about it. You discuss and agree with the client about what he says and needs, and you start. Let's just make it this simple. So yeah. So enough philosophical talk. Let's disassemble the whole project that we have at hand. A martial art dojo system manager. That's what you have. So the customer client says that they want a desktop application that he can click on and gives him all his students. For example, this, I'm gonna explain this as we go along. So of course all of this is about him moving on. Okay, this moving needs a G here. So about Astaghfirullah. So of course all of this is about him moving on from a textbook based register that he needs to draw himself, and it takes a lot of time. So of course the app should the basic operation should I have made a mistake here. So of course the app should do the basic operations like create students, and this stands for create, read, that's a double R, update, and delete or destroy, whatever I call it. So like create, read, update, delete a student or students, login, students, attendance, and so on and so forth. So so let's say that we are here. We are not here to build an application. We are helping him, for example, improve and develop his business. So instead of him having this textbook based register that he needs to draw tables for himself in order to log students attendance, and he needs to write the student's name every time he needs to change something, and all of those stuff, which takes a lot of time. And basically most of the teachers that do martial arts, not most of them, but some of them might actually be illiterate or like illiteracy, or I don't know what's the word for uneducated people who can't write and read. I think it's illiterate or like illiteracy people. I don't. Okay, I have to Google that. Okay, so what I want to say is some of them might not know how to write and read, so they actually need to hire someone. But in order for them to do that, they can just have an application with some buttons that they need to click on, and there they save the time and the headaches that and they saved some money, so do not hire other people. We are killing people's jobs by building this application. It's like the old days when they invented machines. So a lot of people that usually did the work manually, or they used their bare hands to do the work, they have not exaggerated, that's not the word, they argued that machines should not be developed because they'll lose their jobs. They didn't think about it the way they should have think about it. So, and by the way, AI is gonna do the same thing, I'm just telling. So someday this madness of desktop applications is not gonna exist anyway. So you can actually have an application that you can click around and build your application, so you don't need to hire anyone. But you are gonna need someone to build that application that you are gonna click in, and there you go. You have made yourself a job anyway. So as a developer, you can extract and summarize. So as a developer, what can you extract and summarize from all of this? So this is, you can think of this as the client's request. So this is a simple request. I didn't So let's say clients requests. So I didn't want actually to make this complicated because it's not about, this isn't about a freelancing course, and I didn't do that much freelancing, so I'm not qualified to give you the idea about freelancing. I was actually asked to do so many projects in Upwork. I didn't sign up for them. I just wasn't interested in all of the ideas that these people brought to me, to be frankly with you. So I don't have the experience to talk about freelancing, so I've just stopped right here. So as a developer, what can you extract and summarize from all of this? So the client's request is what all of this stands for. So how can you help this client improve their work? What makes this application complete? A lot of questions could be asked. So why not just start by what makes our app a Dojo app? So we can actually start by making the most basic version of our app that actually works, and then we can then decide where to move from there. Okay, sounds like a plan. Let's do it. And here we go. So last thing, I promise. Okay, so whoever wrote this note is the one who promised, which was me. So let's just discuss this last thing before writing some code down. By the way, I've actually forgotten the thing. So this actually whole thing is just a reminder of what I want to do, but this thing that I want to talk with, I actually forgot. But I think it was something else that I'm gonna mention now. So last thing before I end this part 1 of this video. Okay, so let me just mention again that programming isn't about typing code and executing it. It's about solving a problem. The code is just an implementation of our solution that we find for some problem or a problem or our problem, whatever you want to say or call it. So this is all for this part. I was recording for 17 minutes 11 seconds. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. That's 15 seconds.